Not everyone is cut out for Airbnb hosting, but if you're willing to give it a try, I want to share with you a few things you need to know before getting started, because this year it seems like everyone is quitting Airbnb short-term rentals. By now, I think we all know someone that has either hosted or booked an Airbnb, but people are now discovering that being an Airbnb host is not exactly as easy as it looks, and can sometimes be mentally exhausting. Whether you're tired of barely getting any bookings, or maybe you're just getting misinformation from landlords claiming they make thousands of dollars with their property, there are so many things you have to pay attention to and at the same time be readily available to handle potential problems. Some people are also not well informed about the risks that come with hosting on the Airbnb platform, and if you're interested in knowing why, this video is perfect for you. Make sure to stay till the end, as some of these reasons also have solutions to countermeasures in place. So without wasting any more time, here are 7 reasons why everyone is quitting Airbnb. Number 1. Decreased travel demand. Let's face it, although things have recently gotten better ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, the whole travel industry is suffering, and so is Airbnb. Because of how much the lockdowns have affected us financially, the buying power of people has decreased, and this has had a major impact on decreased travel demand. Although the travel ban may have been lifted, people are still wary of traveling and staying in Airbnbs, which has caused a lot of hosts major losses, forcing them to quit Airbnb. Number 2. Lack of quality control for guests. Airbnb is almost everywhere, but there is no standard of quality control, which creates problems, such as less cleanliness and comfort. Guests can damage a host's home and even commit a crime in extreme cases. If in any case guests do not comply with Airbnb guidelines, the host has a lot more to lose than the guest does. When you rent your place to Airbnb guests, you are practically allowing strangers to stay on your property. While you might feel that you have to build up a sort of relationship during your pre-check-in conversations, you simply have no presumption how things will really turn out until the guests arrive. Liability as a result of your guests' actions or incidents is just one of the major Airbnb risks that the host has to simply find ways to mitigate. A guest may get injured, damage your property, or even cause damage to your neighbors. As the owner of the property, you will be on the hook for these problems. Instead of wishing that you can weasel your way out of a civil lawsuit, make sure that you have the proper Airbnb liability insurance coverage necessary in place before you ever list your property on Airbnb. Not only will having the right insurance help to reduce your out-of-pocket expenses, but it can also shield you from personal liability. Some guests even go as far as maliciously leaving a bad review just for the host's ratings to get affected. Non-stop poor ratings usually lead to your Airbnb listing being removed from the platform. It's because of situations like these that people are quitting, especially if they can't see themselves staying for a long time. Keep watching, because in a minute I'm going to tell you exactly what happens when you run into squatters who get a hold of your property. But first, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up so it can be spread to more people. Number 3. Illegal Airbnb and competitive locations. In cities like China, New York, and Thailand, people are quitting Airbnb because it is either illegal in the eyes of the law or, in the case of China, not competitive enough. In 2016, Airbnb launched in China with the hopes to grab a share of one of the largest consumer markets in the world. Unfortunately, after a few years of mounting competition, Airbnb closed its China-based services, including the rental listings and experiences, on the 30th of July in 2022. As for New York, otherwise known as the Big Apple, it is no surprise that getting a house or an apartment in New York City is getting much harder and costlier by the minute. With more and more property investors buying out properties to rent them out on Airbnb, the housing market has become quite impossible for an individual or potential homeowner to navigate. This resulted in the state of New York passing a law in 2017 which prohibits listing an entire unoccupied property for less than 30 days. People who had earlier jumped into the Airbnb business had no choice but to quit. Not only that, but hosts with short-term rental properties in New York City are now required to register with the city and obtain a short-term rental registration number. You might be surprised to discover that Airbnb is illegal in Thailand, especially since it is brimming with tourists. Of course, there are so many Thai listings on Airbnb, but it is still illegal, and those hosts who have been quitted are still running a risk of getting caught. In Thailand, you need to have a license if you plan to rent your property for less than 30 days. Now obviously, since it's illegal, people have no choice but to quit, in order to avoid being caught on the wrong side of the law. Number 4. Not figuring out when you're supposed to break even. What exactly does it mean to break even? The break-even point is the point where total cost and total revenue are equal, which means total revenue equals total production costs. In other words, you've reached a level of production at which the cost of production equals the revenue for a product. Sometimes you might get excited about finishing up your Airbnb unit and you end up spending more than you should because you're not watching your budget. You need to do your research and calculate how much you would get left from your profits when the original cost of the pieces of furniture and other expenses is added up. Calculate this over some time and you will be able to tell when you break even. Most people do not know this, so they end up quitting after running into a lot of losses. Number 5. Less certainty of income. Although there is a possibility of making more money off your house as an Airbnb rental than a long-term rental, there are no guarantees. One of the biggest benefits of being a landlord is the certainty of knowing how much income you will have coming in every month. This helps a lot with cash flow planning, especially with people who are on a tight budget. But with Airbnb, your income is more sporadic and less dependable, and this is another reason people are quitting Airbnb. Let's put it this way. Your June Airbnb income could be twice as high as your monthly October income. This is why it is recommended to roll over as much profit as possible from month to month. That way, if you end up with $1,500 of profit in August, but you go $500 in the hole in September, overall you are still $1,000 in the black. But if you spend all of that August profit immediately, you would surely be dealing with a stressful September. Another 1 year of hosting. Add up your entire annual income and divide it by 12. This will give you a good starting point for establishing your average expected monthly rental income. Number 6. Finding better options than Airbnb competitors. Airbnb over the years has tried to stand out as a powerful player in attracting hosts and guests, yet some hosts can decide to use some of the competitors due to one reason or the other and most often cross-list their offerings. Airbnb has been facing heavy competition in some sectors in several areas by companies like Flipkey, Trivago, HomeAway, Tripping.com, and many others. They have also been criticized for higher prices for stay. The retail prices have also reportedly increased in a few areas due to keeping properties off the long-term rental market and instead of that, getting higher rental rates for short-term housing through Airbnb. Most people who move are usually those who have encountered one or two problems when using the Airbnb platform. Number 7. Risks associated with renting to squatters. Renting to squatters is one of the Airbnb risks that usually affects most hosts. Irrespective of the number of properties they have in their portfolio, in certain cities, squatters can exercise their rights to stay on your Airbnb property as tenants in just a few weeks, and they are often difficult to get rid of. Unsuspecting hosts who end up renting to squatters, especially the inexperienced ones, are then stuck dealing with lengthy eviction processes that end up costing them thousands of dollars in legal fees. Not to mention, they also lose out on renting out to new Airbnb guests. Squatters usually cause property damage, which also means that as a host you will need to be on the hook for those costs as well. To avoid renting to squatters, guests who do not have a clear departure date or want to renegotiate checkout dates after they have already arrived should be immediately dealt with. The point is, it isn't unusual for Airbnb hosts to encounter a few Airbnb risks. It also isn't unusual for an Airbnb host to quit. No business is immune to risks, as each industry, including the short-term vacation rental, is exposed to numerous risks. If you are prepared to enter the Airbnb rental business, then you need to be prepared to face these risks as well. Walking away or failing, especially because of a mistake you made, isn't the end of the world. You just have to pick yourself up, dust your feet, and move on. Let me know in the comments which of these reasons you found the most interesting. We'd love to read your thoughts. And since you need to be aware of how to run a successful Airbnb business, this next video will explain exactly how to get more bookings to your calendar on a daily basis. So click the video on the screen now and I'll see you in the next one.